Hi, George. We are going to paint a boat today. So, hopefully, you guys have got your basic supplies. I like to paint on paper because there's not so much pressure. And I like Bristol because it's heavy. It's heavy enough, it's like a cardstock, so it doesn't, the paper doesn't start to buckle. Acrylic paper works, any kind of paper works. And you can also use canvases or panels, whatever you want to do. So, surface to paint on. I like to use palette pads. These are just wax paper pads you get at the art supply store. But you can also use a plate, you can use a piece of glass, you can use a magazine. Paint. My favorite brand is Golden Acrylics. They are fabulous. You only need, these are mainly what I paint with all the time in my studio. Quinacridone magenta, phthalo blue, green shade. There is a red shade, I believe, but I like the green shade. And then, this is a mouthful, benzimidazolone yellow medium. We're gonna have to talk to Golden about that ridiculous name. And a tube of titanium white for tinting. We need basic assortment of brushes. You don't really need anything much bigger than this. Down to, you know, a little pointy one. You can get some assorted shapes. I like to have a roll of paper towels. Check. And a thing of water for cleaning your brushes. With acrylic paint, you don't, if you get your brush covered in paint and then leave it out, it'll dry up super, super fast. So, we're gonna go over some basics really fast, and then we're gonna do maybe one little exercise and then get into painting this lovely boat. So, your primary colors, you probably already know all this, but your primary colors are the colors that cannot be mixed with other colors. Red, yellow, and blue. They have to get like, I don't know, minerals or something, make it. But you can make all of the other colors using these three. And especially these three golden ones because they're very transparent. They let the light through and it's really hard to make mud using these things. So a neutral is when you mix a color with its complement. Complement just means opposite. So the secondary colors are the ones in between. These are your primaries, but if you mix yellow and red, you get orange, red and blue, you get purple, yellow and blue, you get green, right? So the opposite of red is green. And because we're only using these three, means the opposite of red is meaning using the other two. Does that make sense? And y'all, if you have any questions, I can see the chat. I have my laptop open. And thank you for your patience. This is my first time teaching on YouTube, but so far, so good. Okay, so let's start by putting out some paint on our palette pad. I'm hoping you can see this. I don't do a huge amount. They go a long way. And I guess it depends, you know, if I'm using a giant canvas. And some blue. The blue really is potent, you'll see. And some yellow. And some white. So for color mixing, oh, there's so much I want to tell you. Let's see. I was thinking let's just do like kind of a warm-up color exercise before we jump into the boat, because I want y'all to see how versatile these colors are. They're absolutely amazing. So first of all, let's mix a complete neutral, which is all three colors in equal proportion. So take a little bit and just have a blank piece of paper. This is going to be our little warm-up exercise. Take all three and mix them in equal proportions. Basically, you're trying to make what looks like black. And it gets pretty close, but once you add white to it, you'll see. It makes these fabulous grays. I'm obsessed with these paint. Golden Acrylics is a company that was built by It was created by artists. They weren't happy with the acrylic paints that were available because it used to be that you could tell like that oil paints were kind of more sophisticated and you were able to make those muted, you know, tans and grays and soft neutrals, and acrylic paints were like overly bright, overly chromatic, overly energetic, and so it looked like, you know, like when you walk into, I don't know, like one of those jungle gym places for kids when everything is primary colors and it's just a lot of energy. Well, it's probably a lot of energy for other reasons. Okay, so mix all three. Basically try to make a black. Then just put it on your paper. We're gonna make this a little fun abstract. Any shape, just have fun with it. Get some paint on there. Okay, so see how it has, it's a little bit purple. So if you wanted it to be a little more neutral, a little closer to a perfect neutral, if it's too purple, you want to add its opposite, what's straight across the wheel, yellow. So I'll add a little more yellow, and watch, it'll just tone it. It'll take that purple right out of there. See how it made it kind of nice and neutral? Then, just because I want y'all to play with it, add some white. And look at these fabulous gray colors. Oh, I mean, I feel like this is what Benjamin Moore people must do, just sit around and mix colors. So I just want y'all to get painting. Do you know what I mean? Like, just play like a little kid. Nobody is ever going to see this if you don't want them to. This is just for you to explore your materials. Did we go over the basic materials? Water jar, clean up. I think we did. Okay, so then see how many different grays you can make with this neutral we mixed. So the range, I'll just keep playing, and every time you mix a different color, I want you to put a little on your paper. See how pale of a gray you can make. Go as far as you can. Take it way out. Add a lot of white. Oh, look at that. Look at that nice putty color. Don't paint anything recognizable. I mean, you can do whatever you want. That's what's so great about art. The rules are, there are no rules. But have fun with it. So keep mixing these. Okay, so what I was gonna say, the range of colors for this purpose is, there's a pure hue, which is straight out of the tube. Pure hue, yellow. So, and see how much, like, it's got like all this energy and it pops out at you. So as you neutralize it, meaning mix it with its complement, which also means opposite. Let's put this back up here. So the opposite of yellow is purple. So that means the other two colors in the primary, right? Because purple is made from these two. So basically, I like to use all three of these colors in every color that I use, just in different proportions. So I added, let's make sure you can see this. So I had yellow, and I added a little bit of the red and the blue. And that makes it a little less intense. And then I can add a little more. Makes it a little more neutral, a little more neutralized. But it's still, like, look at that fabulous mustard. So keep, and if it gets too red, then you add its opposite. You add green to keep toning it down. So eventually what I'm saying is, if you keep neutralizing this, you're gonna get to that perfect neutral in the middle. And this really recedes when it's on a painting. And this really pops out at you. It has a lot of energy. So you wanna use restraint throughout your painting and have toned down, sort of, I mean, mature is the wrong word, but somewhere between like mature and sophisticated. You wanna use restraint and not have overly bright colors, because you know what I mean? Like when your kid's art comes home and it doesn't match your living room, it's because there's too much pure hue. They're brilliant, but the colors that are a little more toned down are the way colors occur in the world a little more naturally. And then when you do add a pure hue or closer to a pure hue, it really pops. So play around with making some colors using all three of these. And color mixing, guys, color mixing is something that it takes practice, but not as much practice as you might think. So now that we've kind of gotten a little warmed up, I'm gonna say some items that we all know, and I want you to mix as close as you can to that color, okay? So let's start with an easy one. Let's start with grass. So I'm gonna start with yellow. This phthalo blue is there's so much pigment in here. You just need a tiny, tiny, tiny dot. So get it, and now try it also, forgot to say this part. I want you to use at least some portion of all three of your primaries in every color that you mix. Even if it's just a tiny dot, include all three, because I don't know, a teacher taught me to do that, and I really love the way it turns out. So just for this exercise, obviously you can do whatever you want, but I think you might enjoy this. So let's make some grass. And try not to get frustrated, because when you feel like you mess it up and you're not getting the color right, clean your brush, start over, because every time you mix it, I'm not going to do air quotes. I was recently told that those are not cool. But guess what? I'm not cool at all. Then I lost my train of thought. Choo-choo. Every time you mess up and you get it wrong, air quotes, you learn something. You really do. But you guys won't believe how many colors you can make. Okay, now let's make bubblegum pink. And it's gonna be a challenge to make bubblegum pink. You're gonna wanna just put white in your magenta. Let's not do that. I want you to make bubblegum pink with just a touch of the blue and the yellow. The blue, I mean, you're just gonna you have to learn. The blue will overpower. So many times I've had to start over because that dang phthalo blue. But you know what I mean? So if a color is more neutralized, it's still gonna read as really bright. Look at that bubblegum pink. Remember that song? Bazooka, zooka, bubblegum. My kid learned that at camp. Okay, let me check, make sure. Everybody with me? Oh, hi, Sydney! So fun. Thank y'all for joining me. Oh, these are some, so I started teaching when we had the shutdown. And my daughter told me recently that shutdown years don't count, so I'm actually 2 years younger. But we started sort of a painting group on Instagram, and we had so much fun. So I've been missing getting out there and teaching. Okay, everybody do some grass. Everybody do some bubble gum. Let's see, what else do we all know the color of? How about UPS? No, craft paper brown. That's a hard one. It's actually not. You want to use all three and then add just a touch more of the yellow. It's got like a little orange in it, and then some white. Can you all see my palette? I can prop it up if you can. This one is actually kind of hard for me. And it also might help if you don't have a clear picture in your mind of what craft paper tan looks like, just do a pair of khakis. And it's a fun exercise to get, like, find a magazine paper and try to match the colors on there. Because if you keep practicing this, using these three, I guarantee you cannot find a color that you can't eventually make out of these three colors. Which is so great, because then you can make like a little travel art set. And this is what I've been doing lately. Because when I go somewhere really cool and foreign, I like to find a restaurant, obviously not a super crowded one because you don't want to hack the waiter off, but find a restaurant that has lots of outside tables, like, you know, in a cute little village or whatever, and then get my paints out and then order some olives and some wine and just paint and like just be in the environment. And it's amazing how many random people will come up and start chatting with you about what you're doing. You let other people paint, but with with this recipe, this is not a lot. And they have smaller tubes than this. So you can take all of these and a little pad of paper, and they actually make, I don't know where mine is, they make like a collapsible, oh, I'm trying not to get on camera. They make a collapsible water jar, and I just keep it all in one little tote and take it with me when I'm traveling. In fact, oh, I have a trip coming up, and I am going to do an art class from the trip. How about that? That'll be fun. All right, everybody got their khaki down? I don't think I have mine totally. But it's a good, you see how it's a good exercise. And then you can start to see, like, what does it need? It has too much green, or it has too much red. That's kind of close. But it's definitely a practice thing, so don't be hard on yourself. Get easy on yourself. But see how the restraint makes this really nice palette. And then, let me move that up just an inch. When you do add a bright color, what's something that's teal, like a really good deep teal? Okay, let me check, make sure there's no, anybody have any questions? Are y'all actually painting, or people actually watching? I know Cindy's painting. What's a deep teal color? How about ocean blue? And every once in a while I like to clean my brush and start over. That's another thing I like about acrylics, they clean up with water. Okay, I'm gonna make an ocean teal. Let's start with the blue. Blue. And at first, you're gonna feel like that you wasted some paint. So start with little teeny blurbs, because you'll get better at mixing, I promise. All right, here's my ocean greeny blue. But see how much more brighter, like closer to a pure hue, how much more it pops being surrounded. So it's sort of like if you imagine like a beautiful, I don't know, Persian or whoever makes the beautiful rugs. They have a lot of neutrals, and then they have some jewel tones that are just sprinkled in there. And I feel like that's why. Mixing your own colors. And you can buy colors already mixed, but it's a lot more expensive. Oh, look at that. See, I just kind of accidentally made that very nice neutral. I'd like to paint a bookshelf this color. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, okay. Any questions? Oh, I love that color too. Okay, how do y'all feel about painting? I can't tell if I'm in the frame. Painting this lovely boat. Anybody excited? Okay, I'm gonna hold it really still. And if you want to, take a screenshot. Oh, but I guess if you're watching it, maybe that doesn't work. Or take a screenshot if you're watching this on your lap. If you can take a screenshot, then you can have it to refer to. But I'm also gonna have it up here, so I just want y'all to be able to see what the target is. Okay, wait, what color should we mix next? How about something yellow that we all know what color it is? Oh, butterscotch candy. Everybody knows what that color looks like, right? Actually, I know what the wrapper looks like. But isn't it amazing how much you can do with these three colors? Oops, so I put too much blue, and look, made green. But you know what? I like that lime green, so I'm gonna go with it a a little white in there. So this warm-up exercise is for your energy around painting, because it seems like the biggest block with adult painters, or maybe about after 3rd grade, is I don't know what to paint, or I don't know how it's going to turn out. And it's the same for me, and I've been doing this for, I still don't know how long. Since I was, I don't know, probably 13 I've been painting. I mean, you know, painting regularly. And I'm 52. Actually, I'm 50 because I get my COVID years back. Just kidding. I need some more yellow. Wait, where was I? What was I talking about? Anybody know? Oh, the attachment to outcome. So if your mentality is just to play, if you think that nobody's going to see your painting, and you're like a kindergartner, and they're just giving you materials, and you're just messing and playing, the art, then you're going to be present, experiencing the process, and I guarantee you, you're going to like the outcome better. And that's hard. It's really hard not to be attached to outcome. Oh, yay. NCBCE. I hope you will paint next time. Okay. I don't know how to scroll these down. I think it'll just pop up. Okay. Let's do one last color. How about that, what's a good deep, let's just do a good deep navy. And I can't think of anything, any particular navy we would all know, but like the one on Hellman's Mayonnaise. See if we can hit that navy. So if it gets too purple, you add a little bit of the complement, which is its opposite, which would be yellow. And then you might want to add a little white. And sometimes, next time we'll do like how many different pinks can you make, because you will not believe all the colors. In fact, let me show you. I did a video last week. And this was in about 10 minutes. But I made all these colors just using those 3 paints. And there's a gazillion more that you can do. I love these paints. Okay, who's ready to start on the boat? Y'all feeling warmed up? Feeling kind of loose? Relaxed? Okay, and now you have a piece. Sign your name. Go buy a frame for it. Slap it on the wall. You might love it. Oh, and I'd love to see if anybody is painting. Please email me pictures. I'd love to see your setup. And if you feel like it, send me a picture of, you know, your paintings. Let's see. I'm going to turn that a little bit. But send them to me, and I think you have to send them to an email. Morgan, will you type the email in the chat? It's bmfunkyfish@gmail.com. Okay, so this is what we're gonna paint. Can everybody see the boat? And it looks hard, I know. But all we gotta do is slow down and look. If you want, let me hold it up again. Hope it's not blurry, so you can take a screenshot. Okay, the fabulous thing about acrylics, they are very forgiving. So if you need more paint, put some more paint out on your palette. And sometimes I make a big mess and I need a new piece of palette pad. But acrylics are very forgiving. So let's use that that dark neutral color that we made to start off with. And if you used it all, like I did, make a new one. All three colors, same amount. You actually can render it on there any color you want, but I like practicing making a neutral. Okay. So let's start with this line. That line that's on the bow. And you know what? Here's where your brain goes, I don't know where to put it. You know, we all kind of freak out. Acrylic paints are very forgiving. If you don't like where you put it, we can paint over it. So just about the middle of your painting, over to the right a little bit, paint this line. That represents this. Okay, then let's see, I would next paint this. So our mind, because we see this boat, will make all kinds of assumptions. But if you look carefully, it is right at the same level and it is right next to it. Right up there. So that's the back of the boat. Then you can take your paintbrush or a pencil or whatever you want and you can measure, because I want to find out how wide it is from the center to the edge. And I just mean relative to, it's not exactly the same, but it's close. And I'm going to measure from here to here. So it's not quite as long as this, it's about this long. The distance from here to the outside. Does that make sense? So I'm going to guess about there. And about, and this is another practice thing. But it kind of gives you your basic, parameters, whatever. And then if you look where the bow of the boat is, you can see the downward slope. Or you can also hold up your brush like this and then hold it up here. Kind of get that same whoosh, whoosh. You don't have to say whoosh. And this is, I picked a very hard thing to draw because our mind makes all these assumptions of what a boat looks like, right? So that, and let's say that's the little red stripe. And see how those go up. This line is a little bit elevated. And then, here's the interesting part. This is where your brain wants to make that longer, the side of the boat. And it's really about as long as the distance between there and there. So it's really quite short. And then it goes right up to there. But look, that's where I messed up. That line's a little steeper. So just start. Just get in there and start. And start trying to draw this, not draw it, but render this boat. Because then we're going to do something really crazy and fun. And it doesn't need to be too exact. Actually, I love paintings that are loosey-goosey. I was about to ask y'all if you're hot, but you're not in my studio, so you may be. Okay, then we have the reflection down here. Okay, if you feel frustrated about your rendering of the boat, I want you to turn it over and turn over the picture. I'll do it for you. And look at it upside down, because then it is very easy to see where you're off. Do you know what I mean? This is one of my favorite tricks. So now I can see that this line, see how much steeper it is than this line? And I don't think I actually went out quite far enough. And then you can see, so does that help? Does that make sense? Do it upside down. Let's see. But you can, when you turn it upside down, it breaks up your mental assumptions that your brain makes, that you know how a boat looks. It's sort of like, how kids paint, well, a lot of people paint lollipop trees, which is like a straight line with a circle. That's an assumption. Nobody's ever seen a tree that looks like that. Okay, so now let's look how the yellow over here is a lot brighter and closer to a pure hue. It's still a nice neutral than it is over here, right? So since we did let's mix up. Let me get a better brush. So also remember, if you have paint on your brush, you can leave it in the water. Don't leave it all day in the water, but just don't leave it laying there if you switch colors, because it will dry your brush up and ruin your brush so fast. Okay. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's start with that yellow first. It's still pretty toned down, so you want to use a little bit of the red, a little bit of the blue, more of the yellow, obviously, and some white. Not too much. So you're toning it down. You're making it, and it might look kind of yucky muddy when it's on your palette, but try to show restraint. You can always add in pops of color later. And I know you don't have it here, but if I'm ever painting from a photograph and I feel like I'm having trouble mixing the color, sometimes I just paint right on the picture. And you can see if you're in that. See, mine's too green, but it's pretty close. So if it's too green, you add the opposite of green, add a little more red. And I realize, I don't know if I pointed it out, that what the color I'm using as my red is really, oh sorry, my palette is cut off, is magenta, but I like it because you can make a lot more purples and jewel tones, and you can still make the reds and the oranges. So let's start putting your yellow on there. And just tackle it. Do you find yourself like being like, ooh, I don't want to, getting started is sometimes the hardest part. But just do it. Just have fun. It's not always, I'm going to do a whole show of all my crapola art that's in the side of the studio. Okay, and then you want to make it even more toned down for that side. So you can use that same color and add more blue and more magenta, or we're going to call it red. And tone it down even more. And it's significant. Look how much darker that is than that. But your brain would say the whole boat is yellow, right? But if you really slow down and look, this is a completely different color than this. Like, I don't know if I even made mine dark enough. And we'll get to that, all that highlight later. We might not even include it. And then you can, that's the great thing about art, is you can make a choice. Like that rope is doing something weird, we're gonna make that rope go straight down. It doesn't look weird. Is it in focus? It's looking like it's kind of out of focus. Oh, okay, I'll keep lifting it, sorry. So I'm using that same yellow, and I kept adding a little more of the other two colors. And then, you know, might turn too green like that, like I just did, to add more red. I might need more yellow. Okay, and then let's do this stripe down here, because I think it's sort of this color, just lighter. So you have the white to lighten up. It's called tinting, and it makes the value lighter, but it actually makes the intensity less because it dilutes it a little bit. And then just a little bit less on that side. But you know, let the paints bump into each other. Oh, you could put a little bit up here. No, that's too yellow. I love these acrylics because you can just paint right over them if you don't like it. Let's see if I lowered the camera even more. Would that help? Got this arm. Is that better? Oh, I think I can go even lower. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's do this dark brown area right down in here. So I'm thinking it's close to that first neutral we made, all three evenly, but just a little more red to give it that brown. And you can always just test it. Oh, but look at that teal popping through. That's gonna be fun. So we know this side of the boat is more shaded. So every color we make, we can either tint it or add a little more pigment to make it a little bit brighter. So it has that nice contrast, which lets your eye know. Our eyes are actually very good at picking up authentic shadows and light because we've experienced the world, and we know from just walking around, you know what shadows look like. So see how that's just a slightly different color? And now, oh, that's gonna be fun. Let's make that teal. We're gonna do some of the blue, just a little bit of yellow, and a little dot of the red over here. Oh, the phthalo blue. Oh, look at that. Isn't that fabulous? And then add a little dot of yellow. I don't know if you love like old paint. Let's see, where is it? You don't want to make it too perfect. There we go. Okay, now you want to work on, you know what? Let's do the end of this line because I think it's close to that same brown we did down here. And then this is going to be fun when we do the reflections. The reflections, you just look at the reflections. Is it the same color as that? No, it's a little bluer than that. So it's this color kind of mixed with that teal. But somehow it seems like these reflections are definitely toned down. Let's see if that's about right. Yep. And they're, you know, wibbly on the edges. know why the reflection did that. I think it's just where the light is. But there's a little point, do you see this light line where the reflection, where the surface of the water hits the boat? And I'm sure there's some reason that that happens. So I'm gonna add a little white just to delineate. Where the boat hit the water. Okay, and then look at this. If you really stop, your brain is telling you that this is a reflection, and you believe that. But if I ask you right now, what color is the reflection? If you look, it's lime green. It is lime green. So it's that water reflecting the yellow of the boat. And the blue in the water is impacting the yellow of the boat. And it's not super bright, so this is gonna be one of these ones we gotta mix and tone down. Let's see, pretty damn close. And that takes a little practice. Oh, and I love how it's like, wow, wow. That's when the water gets rougher. I'm so glad to see. Okay, so that side's a little more toned down. So it's still the same lime green, but just put a little more of the other two colors in there. Because the reflection is going to be toned down just like the boat is toned down. Oops. And I did too much. And that happens. And either use it somewhere else or start over. I might have been able to save it. And we're going to do some more water. We're going to come in here and know I'm going to like that better. And sometimes, like, step back and look at your painting. Because sometimes I'm in the middle of painting it and I'm looking at it and I'm being really hard on it. And I'm like, argh. And then I step back and I actually like it. Okay, let's do in here. Look at these two colors. This nice off-white, kind of gray putty colored. But doesn't that look a little purple? And then it goes to like a little fleshy kind of, let's do that first. I'm gonna get a new brush. I'm gonna clean this one. And the great thing is you don't have to get a new brush all the time with these colors. I like to just because, I don't know, I like using different brushes. I think it gives variety to the painting. How's everybody doing? Is anybody painting? Morgan, you painting? I'm gonna do this big on canvas tomorrow. I'm liking this boat. Are y'all liking it? Okay, let me draw the line because it looks like right next to there where you can see the seat. And then there. So that makes it a nice, let's start with kind of that muted purple. And the shadow is a very distinct line. And then the other side, weirdly, is lighter. Just getting some sunlight in there, huh? It goes right up to there. And then there's a very well lit spot right here. So if you want to make it have like push and pull and kind of really give you some depth, change the temperature a little bit. By that, I mean, like see how I'm making this a little bit yellower? Not just the same color with white. Temperature is relative. Like there is a spot of warmth right there. I'm gonna add a little. So like red and orange are always gonna be warmer than blue, but you could have a green blue that's warmer than a purple blue. Does that make sense? Y'all are so nice to join me. Okay, and this has a little more yellow. But we're gonna keep doing color mixing exercises. I hope y'all are not frustrated. I promise it gets easier. But I bet you're not. I bet y'all are having a blast. This has that kind of. All right, now let's go back and let's do the red stripe because that's going to be fun. Okay, so same thing. Use all three colors, and you just want to do less of the yellow and the blue. Right? Does that make sense? So every color is sort of neutralized and toned down, but just not completely, because you saw what happens when we mix all three equally, right? You got almost a black color. So we're just doing, there's somewhere between red all the way down to that neutral. And we're just doing slightly neutralized. You can add a teeny bit of white, but watch out because it makes it pink. And I don't think it's pink, I think it's red. And the one on the right is definitely got more chroma. It's more vibrant. And it starts right here. And then if you really stop and look, it looks wider down here, which my brain would have thought it got thinner. Now, the other side, this is what's going to really make it seem kind of 3D. The other side is going to be a lot more neutral, a lot more toned down. So take that same red and just add very carefully more green, which is blue in the red. And you're going to make that one more like a red wine color. You want to do it enough that it's notable. So let's see. Okay, and then, then it's gonna get really fun. Okay, but see how your boat is already kind of 3D and it's kind of popping out at you a little bit. And you know, I mean, look at my boat. It's certainly not perfect. I can turn that upside down and keep making some improvements. But it's got the hand, you know, like, it's charming. So go easy on your painting. Like I can see it on the computer screen that this side, the slope is too whoosh. I need to make it stay up a little more. But have fun with it. Right? Oh my gosh. It's almost been an hour. Doesn't time fly when you're painting? Is there anybody on there that it says that there are more people down there than in the comments? Say hi if you're some of my regulars from the pandemic, or anybody I know, or if you just want to say hi. Let me know. I would love to know if you guys are painting or if you're just watching. And if you're just watching, grab a pen and a paper and, you know, tackle it because it's fun. Okay, so let's do the water. We're going to start way back here. And I want to mix that pure hue, the pure neutral again. So, because your palette's probably looking a bit full, like mine, let's take make a bunch of neutral, meaning all three colors mixed pretty close to equally. you know, maybe a little bit bluer, just because that water looks a little bit bluer. But give it a nice neutral, because make it really, you're gonna think it looks like black, but look, that looks a lot like black. You know what I mean? Like your brain is gonna wanna paint blue water when it's not showing up as blue anymore. So mix a bunch of that really dark neutral. You can maybe put a tiny drop of white, but go easy because we're going to add some later. All right, and just jump in. Because that's, the water does look dark back there. You got to admit it. And be generous with the paint, especially on this part, because I want you to be able to mix it in. It's one of the greatest things about acrylics, and one of the biggest challenges is how fast they dry. But see, look, see all these little, these are getting more green over here. And then, look at that color, that really light highlight color. And then there's some nice neutrals in there. So I'm gonna add a bunch of white. And maybe a little more yellow. And this is a trial and error thing. So go easy. But there's a huge, what I'm saying is look at what a huge contrast there is between that highlight on the water and that dark color. And it's more than our brain realizes. Our brain wants to be like, the whole thing is watercolored. But water almost always has lots and lots of contrast, especially when it's moving. Maybe only when it's moving, actually. And I think those are reflections of like, okay, when you're painting water, and I don't know why, but it seems like make your brush strokes all go in the same direction, because if you go this way, it stops looking like water. Does that make sense? I asked that a lot, don't I? Is my head in the way? Sorry. I also like paper because I don't feel like you have to cover every single tiny millimeter with paint. You can actually use some of the white background. I like that. Looking good, right? Well, I've cut it off a little, sorry. Okay, then we're gonna mix another kind of neutrally orange for that over there. Sorry, I totally cut it off. No, we gotta finish doing the, so add a little more yellow to your dark neutral color. And a little more blue. I gotta get more paint. Let's see up here. Make these nice contrasty ripples. It's looking good, right? So let me ask you this. The people that are not painting, do you feel like you could do this? Because you can. You totally can. And if you enjoyed watching, go get some supplies. The supply list is in the description, I believe. It's supposed to be. And give this a whirl. And if you feel like it's too much to do it this big, do it on a little teeny piece of paper. And this part you can have fun with. Just keep looking at what you're looking at if you want it to be more realistic. Let's add, let's keep bringing the water down while it's still sort of wet. So it's a little bit bluer. You know, over here in spots, it gets really blue, then really light. I'm gonna kind of do like a neutrally kind of middle ground. And then I gotta start over. Palette, load it up. I usually use a bigger palette. And I use it as long as I can because there's a lot of good neutral colors mixed on there. And here's the thing, you might think, oh, I mixed this color, I can never do it again. But with practice, you can mix any color and you can always recreate it. And it'll take a little bit of practice, but you can do it. If I can do it, any monkey can do it. So I'm putting all three out again. Okay, and also for next week, because I think we're going to keep doing these, if you guys like them. Oh, thank you. Next week, if y'all would like to, or in one of these classes, I'm thinking we just do a whole class of color mixing. Because it's so fun, and it's so much less frustrating if you get color mixing down pat, you know what I mean? Okay. So, for down here, let's go with some light blue. So I'm going to start with some blue, just a little bit of yellow, a little bit of red. Then I'm going to add the white. And the white helps you kind of see it better if it's too, you know, it's too purple to this, to that. And restraint is not my strong suit either, so just go easy on yourself if you brick. It's part of the learning curve. But see how that was like a really neutral, and now these light blue that aren't even that pure hue, but they really pop because they're next to the ones that we showed restraint with. Because we're doing such a good job. And the color changes, you know, like the color of the water will kind of change. The photo is cut off, so we're going to have to just imagine this. But I think it would blend in with the reflection. And that's hard. I love painting from photos because I have a hard time imagining what would be happening. You know what I mean? And if you learn to look, you learn a lot about the way light works. So I think I'm going to bring that yellow reflection down some more. And I think it would start to break up. You know what I mean? Like, let's see. Like that, like kind of get less and less. And then we're going to do the other side. So it's really just a matter of slowing down and looking at what you're painting if you want to make it more realistic. And it's also a matter of having fun. Put some energy in it. There we go. Oh, okay. Yeah, Cindy says she'd love a color mixing class. Okay, let's do it. I also, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. We did this, I don't know if you remember, Cindy, but we did a whole class where we made like business cards. And we had so much fun. My daughter, we were actually in Paris, and she needed business cards because she was going to this photography event, and we looked all over Paris to find a printer because we forgot to bring business cards for her. And then I'm like, we can make them. So we got all these little pieces of paper and made these little crafty business cards. And so I was thinking we could do a whole class of these. You know what I mean? And you could put, this was a COVID germ. We had so much fun with it. And people, when we gave them out, were just mind blown. They're like, where did you have these made? Because we used puff paint, we used glitter, we used, oh, look at, where's the one with the, I put a fake eyelash on one. So we'll do a color mixing class, and then we'll do a class where we make business cards or calling cards, you know, so you can just have your own little, they're kind of hard to give away though after you make them. But I think it also puts good energy into, like, if you're trying to get a new job, or if you're trying to meet somebody, or so my daughter is trying to connect with these famous photographers, and it put a lot of intention, you know what I mean? Okay, let's keep working on this. So please, the email address, bmfunkyfish, is in the comments. And I'd love to see your painting, but don't worry if you don't want anybody to see it, that's fine too. But send me what you're working on. I'd love to see your little workspace, who you're painting with, anything. So fun. Let's see. I need to get in there and do that reflection part. So just keep looking at what you're painting. All right, we're about out of time. Any questions before we go? I do that. Business cards are so business cards are so stuffy. I agree, Philip. I mean, people really did go bananas. It was fun. But it was also amazing how long it took us to come up with the idea that we could write it down with pen and paper. You know what I mean? Like, we thought we had to have a printer. Okay, I'm making a very dark neutral for that shadow part right under the boat that needs some fill in. And see how it's like curvy? Okay. I could keep working this forever. Email me questions, pictures, suggestions. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate y'all logging on. And if you liked it, subscribe. We're going to make some more videos. Thanks for joining. Bye. Have a great night.